Session 45, Session 45, 9th December 2022. We continue with Quran summarized, that is, Quran explained in brief. Quran explained in brief, and with the verses of give us the path of those whom you have rewarded, not the ones who earned your annoyance, the Jews, nor the ones who went astray, the Christian. غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Ameen. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We continue. Then I'll skitter. The Prophet continued, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He'll say, then I'll skitter, move quickly, go back the second time and request Allah, the Almighty, for permission to enter his house. I'll be permitted to enter. The moment I see him, I'll fall prostrate. As long as Allah likes, He'll permit me to hang in there. Thereafter, He'll say, O Muhammad, you can lift your head and speak. It will be heard. Recommend salvation. Your recommendation, intercession, would be accepted, and seek, you will be granted. I'll therefore raise my head, the Prophet ﷺ said, I'll therefore raise my head and praise my Rabb with such specially exclusive encomiums which he'd have taught me himself. Then I'd plead salvation. A maximum limit would be granted, fixed for me. I'd come out, find them from the fire, and take them into the heaven. Having brought home the beacon twice, and not leaving it at that, I'll persevere. I'll come back the third time, seek Allah's permission to enter his house. I'll be permitted to enter. Seeing him, I'll fall prostrate. He shall let me remain as such till as long as he pleases. Consequently, he'll say, O Muhammad, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, raise your head, speak, it will be bestowed. The Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam then said, I lift my head and praise and appreciate Rabb with such great eloquence which he'd have blessed me himself. Then I'd implore for mercy. A maximum limit encompassing all the remaining believers would be granted to me. I'll come out and salvage them from hell and leave them into the heaven. Only those would stay put in hell who would be blocked by the Quran. That is, those for whom Allah has promised hell. Those who do not believe in Quran, the disbelievers, those for whom Allah has promised hell, those who do not believe in Quran, the disbelievers, those who have created associates with Allah, mushrikeen, the pantheists, polytheists, also those who believe in Allah and yet indulge in shirk also, in pantheism, polytheism also, who believe and yet indulge in shirk also. Then the Prophet ﷺ recited the ayat that Ya Rab, sustainer, would lift me to the perch, Muqam-e Mahmud, and said, this is the greatest perch, place which Allah has promised your Prophet. Muttafiq alayh, Mishkat. Abdullah bin Masud Razillah Ta'ala anhu is quoted as Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, I know the last person to be forgiven, leaving the hell and entering heaven. Thereafter, none would be forgiven. That is, none would ever be released from hell thereafter. A person would slink from the hell, dragging himself on the knees. A person would slink from the hell, dragging himself on the knees. Allah would order, go and enter the heaven. He'll feel as though the entire heaven is overly full. He'd say, O my sustainer, I have seen it already jam-packed. I have seen it already jam-packed. Allah would say, go and enter the heaven. You have a place equal to the earth and 10 times more vast. You have a place equal to the earth and 10 times more vast. He'll submit, are you joking with me, being light-hearted with me, whereas you are the king? Abdullah bin Masud stated, I saw the Prophet ﷺ smiling, and to an extent that all his teeth were visible. Said, he'll be the heaven dweller of the most meager level. Said, he'll be the heaven dweller of the most meager level. The Prophet said, Muttafiq alayh, Mishkat. Anas Razilullah Ta'ala anhu said, surely the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam stated, salvation on my recommendation would occur even for the most gravely sinful of my ummah. Anas Razilullah Ta'ala stated, surely the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam stated, salvation on my recommendation would occur even for the most gravely sinful of my ummah. Tirmidhi, Abu Dawud, Ibn Majah, Mishkat. Anas Razilullah Ta'ala anhu is quoted as Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, those marked for the hell would be standing in an orderly row. Those marked for the hell would be standing in an orderly row. A man for the heaven would pass close to them. A hell captive would say, oh, so and so, don't you recognize me? I had once given you water to drink. I had once given you water to drink. A second man would say, I had once provided you with water for ablution. With the permission of Allah to recommend, the heavenward person would request Allah for their salvation and take them to the heaven. Ibn Majah. Jabir Razulullah Ta'ala anhu is quoted, a person inquired from the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, would those in heaven sleep? Would those in heaven sleep? The Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam replied, sleeping is like death. death's brother, and the heaven dwellers won't die, and the heaven dwellers won't die. Bahiki Mishkat. Nu'man bin Rashid Rasulullah Ta'ala anhu is quoted. The Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, the lightest torture in hell would be for the believing person having two shoes or two shoelaces of fire, which would make his mind boil as ferociously as soup in a cooking pot. He'd feel as though there is none suffering greater punishment, torture than himself, whereas his punishment is the lightest. Muttafiq alayh, Mishkat. The Prophet said, Nu'man Bashir is quoted, the Prophet said, the lightest torture in hell would be for a believing person having two shoes or two shoelaces of fire, which will make his mind boil as ferociously as soup in a cooking pot. He'd feel as though there is none suffering greater punishment, torture than himself, whereas his punishment is the lightest, Muttafika alayh, Mishkat. Ka'b Rasulullah Ta'ala anhu, a Jew scholar earlier, then converted to Islam, quotes from Torah. We find written in the Old Testament, Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is the Prophet of Allah, a slave human being whom I like tremendously. He is not insolent, rude in speaking. He is soft, nor harsh by nature, nor does he roam around in markets. He does not retaliate, but forgives and forgets and closes the matter forever. His place of birth is Mecca, and Medina is his place of migration. He'll also rule over Syria. His Ummah praises Rabb profoundly. Happy or sad, they praise Allah. They remember Allah at every step. They remember Allah at every step. They mention Allah's greatness, high pedestal at every high place in all senses of the term. They are watchful, careful about the sun. That is, they offer prayers the moment it is time of prayers. Wear taband, sheet, pajamas, shalwar, top, etc., till half of their calves. The watchful person, they offer prayers the moment it is time for prayers. Wear taband, sheet, pajamas, shalwar, top, etc., till half of their calves. Tirmidhi, Mishkat. That is, he said, this is written in their testament. We end here. That's all for today. Please pray for me. Shall meet tomorrow. Allah will be willing, inshallah. Please pray for me. Ex-Brigadier Mustansir Billah.